Welcome to the Redemptive Economics Podcast, where we are empowering Christian entrepreneurs to make a redemptive economic impact here in Pittsburgh and beyond. Let's get to work! Hey folks, welcome back to the show. My name is McCormick, and of course I am your host, and I am grateful that you chose to invest your time in listening to this podcast. And it is my commitment to make sure that that time is well spent for you and that you get return on that investment. Today is a special episode where I share a series of interviews that I did at a really great leadership conference that I attended down in Southpointe near Canonsburg. And I interviewed several business leaders, some who spoke, some who were guests and just there to take it in. And man, what a cool opportunity to get the chance to kind of be there and speak to each one of these folks during the conference. The conference was great. McCormick down in Canonsburg is the guy who puts this on every year. This is, I believe he said, his 12th year. That's fantastic. This is a John Maxwell event called Live2Lead in Southpointe. And man, I had a blast hanging out with folks down there. Had a blast with Mike and his son, who they got to partner together on putting this event together, which is super special. The speakers were amazing. Of course, John Maxwell and some of the world-class speakers were, of course, amazing as well. So make sure that you keep, I put the link to, if you click on the Mike McCormick link in the show notes, it'll take you to his website where you'll be able to keep track of when this event will happen next year. I highly encourage you to check it out next year. It was definitely worth the time to go. At the very least, the connections that are made there are fantastic. So I also included timestamps in the show notes for you to kind of see who is specifically I interviewed at what times in the podcast in case you wanted to skip ahead. Thank you to everybody who was willing to let me pull you aside to interview you. That was brave and courageous in the moment to just do that. I appreciate it, and I think it worked out great. And I'm excited for our listeners to hear some of the things that you all had to share. So thank you for that. Hey, remember to give me a 5-star review here on the show. If you would, please, wherever you're listening, that would mean so much, especially if this show has given you any value. If you find it to be valuable, please give us a 5-star review. A written review would be even better. That would be amazing. I'd really appreciate it. Lastly, I included a new link in the show notes that will allow you to donate to Redemptive Economics, the podcast, using Bitcoin. Some of you have heard me talk about it before. I believe Bitcoin is one of the most redemptive things that could happen to our economy. It is, I believe, the only monetary technology that abides by God's just weights and measures and will be and will continue to have a redemptive economic impact all over the world. And so if you are a Bitcoiner like I am and you'd like to support us with Bitcoin, I would really, really appreciate that. That would mean so much. All right, folks, let's jump in to the interviews from the Live2Lead Southpointe conference. Hey folks, I'm here with Mike McCormick, and we are at the Live2Lead conference here in Southpointe. Super excited to be here, Mike.
Oh, it's going to be a great day.
Yeah, really, really grateful for you and your dad and for the work that you guys have done to pull this together. For how many years have you done this now?
That's a good question. It's several. I've been a part of 4 or 5 myself, and I think he was doing even it before that. So we've got a good run going.
Yeah, I feel like I remember something at least 10 or 13 years or something.
Wow.
Like that.
Yeah,
maybe we'll confirm with Mike Sr., because you both have the same name, right? It's Mike or Michael. Yeah. Do you go by a different?
Well, when we were both living here in Pittsburgh, he would be Mike and I would be Michael to distinguish between us. Now that I'm moved to Lexington, I go by Mike there, but usually it's not a big deal. But hey, I know if somebody calls me Michael that I'm back in Pittsburgh, which feels like home, so that's a good thing, yeah.
All right, very, very cool. Okay, so you've been a part of this for a few years yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How did this get started?
Yeah, well, my dad really started to want to continue to make an impact with his life, and after he retired from the financial service industry, he got connected with John Maxwell, same value system, and obviously many people consider John sort of the GOAT of leadership, the greatest of all time,
right.
And has that influence that transcends both the business world as well as with Christian values. And so that was a great fit for him. And so he got connected with the Maxwell group, and part of that becomes this opportunity to do an event. So he's able to put these on and host as the kind of regional area sponsor for this. Right. And he just started inviting his friends and people he knew in the community and all his business contacts, and it's just grown. It's really fun to see.
That's how it starts. It always it starts small. I think Jeff Hancher, who's our the feature speaker,
the keynote today,
for local, and he said, don't despise the small beginnings or the small starts. Right?
Oh no, I think and of course these days I think there's a value in small that's personal and a little more impactful sometimes. But on a large day like today, what you're going to get is the energy. And we talk about the people being the CEOs, the chief energy officers of wherever they go. So I love seeing everybody bring that into the space.
That was very interesting to hear that. Mike was telling me about that before, the chief energy officer, which is a little different than what we think about before, as opposed to the executive officer. We're talking about energy, which is so true. All right, Mike, I see you over here. Come on in. I want to get your thoughts on this too. I was just talking to your son. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on why you started this conference. And how long ago was it that you started it?
Yeah, so I started soon after I became a Maxwell coach, which was soon after I sold my company and realized retirement wasn't going to be my thing. So, I've always been a fan of leadership, and I've always appreciated good leaders, and had a little bit of a disdain, if you will, for people who were not good at that skill but had that as a role. So I thought it would be so good to be involved in helping leaders lead and add value to people's lives. And I actually think that's what today is all about. We don't know how you're going to benefit. We don't know if it's going to be a speaker or the person sitting next to you or the person that you're meeting at the table. We know if you came here looking for ways of improving your leadership, you will meet people here and find resources to be able to do it. So I'm excited about it. This is the fourth time we've done it at this location. It's about the 12th one I've done altogether. And this year I'm especially excited because Michael and I are doing it together.
Yes.
And we've had a really good time the last couple of days doing all the little stuff you need to do to get prepared. So
yeah, you got to be pretty excited to have a father-son duo like this, to be leading a leadership event. You don't see this very often, I would say.
Yeah, it's pretty great. We're really excited about it. It's been a fun week getting ready, in particular to putting the last minute details together. And I was thinking about what you were saying about leadership development, and not only is it a developing opportunity for the attendees, but one of the things that Dad has added is these real-world speakers. And so talking about leadership development, we're going to have a half dozen people who are going to be able to speak and share and have the opportery to it's a pretty big room in there.
Oh, yeah.
Big
with
screens.
5 screens.
5 screens.
Mike was very clear.
Yeah, well, we're premiering technology that allows us to present everybody speaking here or through the rebroadcast on the 5 screens all at one time. So we've created an expectation, and we're taking the Live2Lead event to a new level.
I love it. That's great. So you have obviously national speakers like John Maxwell and others. You can probably mention a few others some of the others that are going to be speaking, but then also your live speakers who are here. And what did you call them again?
We call them real world speaker. The distinction is the world-class speakers are generally people who are compensated extremely well for their public appearances.
Yep.
The real world speakers are people from this community who are making an effort to speak out what they believe in into the community. So this is so we combine the community benefit with which we call real world. They're out in the real world.
That's right.
And the world-class speakers, which they're a little bit more proven, and it just makes for the enthusiasm of people who are new doing it for the first time, and you benefit from the skill and the wisdom that people who have already mastered their trade and are presenting that as well.
I really appreciate that, because I know last night when we met and we were getting our tables set up for the event the night before, you mentioned that there were some people who had attended prior and now have, maybe years prior, and now have become speakers. And so what I love about that is you're actually developing people in a sense through this who eventually will give back through speaking. That is really cool.
Well, our first attempt of helping somebody is by encouraging them to sponsor a table, to bring people with them. So it helps them with the basic skills of making a commitment first. A little scary because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You develop courage through that uncertainty, and then before you know it, you have mastered the skill. You sound like the expert, even though you've only been here once or twice.
Yeah.
But to a new person, this is all new and exciting, and it just works at all levels, whether you're beginning to learn leadership or trying to bring 2 or 3 tables of people. And if you're interested in being a speaker, then we have a path that you can take to get on our list. So
that's great. And then, so today, the real world keynote speaker is Jeff Hancher. And that was just a few episodes ago that we had Jeff on the podcast. So you guys can go back and check that out as well. And hopefully we'll get him in here to share a few thoughts about the conference as well. Tell us a bit, because you have a story about some folks who've been here and you've seen their development. Do you mind sharing maybe one of the more compelling stories for you?
I'll hold this. You go get Jen, because she's right over there.
Oh, okay. Well, you've got,
there you go. Yes, I wanted to introduce someone to you, and she just happened to walk by.
All right, great. Yes.
You bring God with you wherever you go.
Absolutely.
We had electricity that we didn't know we had. We had space that you didn't have.
That's right.
And so I tell stories. A lot of them are stories, but some of them are actually around people who are here and have been coming. And this is Jen. She's just.
Hi, Jen.
Hello.
Welcome. I'm Mike. Nice to meet you.
This is her 4th time.
Okay.
And the first time she came here was soon after she was experiencing a job change, which she didn't expect.
Right. Yeah.
She was really bummed out about it.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And really didn't even know that she was going to come, but I think she came at the last minute.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the day, she was going, I'm going to show them they made a mistake.
Oh, this is Jen.
This is Jen.
You
I
told
was
me
telling
the
her the
story
story
last night.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
Jen, it is so good to finally
So
meet
she
you.
said, I'm going home, and I'm going to make something of myself, and I'm bringing people back with me. So this year's her 4th year. Her table is already here waiting.
Wow.
And she has, I know, anybody that calls in from West Virginia, I go, you must know Jen. She's going to, yes, I do.
So Jen, you're from West Virginia.
I'm going to leave her with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Mike,
thank you for
Thanks,
talking
Mike.
to us, brother.
Oh.
We can hold that, or she can hold. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh.
There you go, Jen.
Just hold it
All right.
right about here.
Right
So
here?
yeah, perfect. That's good.
Okay.
So
Was not expecting this.
I know, right?
Good
He
morning.
just told you good morning. It's good to see you. We're here It's here. It's 7:30, folks. So have grace with us as we're still trying to wake up and
That's
let
right.
caffeine get through us. So Jen, where are you from?
I'm from Morgantown, West Virginia originally.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
When I first came to Live2Lead, though, I was working in Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay.
I'd
All right.
moved up to actually Cannonsburg, just lived over the hill here
Very
at the
cool.
time.
Yeah, pretty close.
And was in a transition period and really thinking that I was going to take my career in a different direction. Came here, laughed, cried, was inspired,
Wow.
and so every year I've come back, I've brought a different
Wow.
team with me because I've been at 3 different places since then.
Wow, that's amazing.
And every year I bring a team with me, and actually people coming from the team I brought last year are coming today as well as the team I brought today. So
Wow, so we're talking multiplication. You
Yeah.
are multiplying and increasing your influence. That's amazing. And tell me about what you do professionally then.
So I am a healthcare administrator.
Okay,
So
yep.
currently I'm the associate administrator for the Department of Medicine in Morgantown.
Okay, yep.
Actually, over the last year, I took the last 18 months, took a look at my life and stepped back. I was assistant vice president for a hospital, and it was just too much, and my priorities were out of line, and so I was like, I took actually a few weeks off, and then
Really?
the team I'm with now is the team I started my career with almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I love it. I might be making less money, but I'm much happier. I have a much balanced
Wow.
life.
That's a big deal. So by now, by the time this airs, we will have had Megan Spear on the podcast,
Okay.
and she wrote a book. The name is escaping me. Something like "Letting Go of Should," I think. She took over a CEO role for a couple years and just burnt herself out and decided that it was not what she was meant to do. and took a step back.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you had a very similar experience.
Yeah.
So you, initially, were you excited to take on the role and thought, wow, this is like my career progressing? And then you woke up to, wait, this is maybe not the good fit?
Yeah. It was over my time at Pittsburgh. I grew really fast there. I started in at a position they created for me, not really entry level, but in the chair's office. Ended up in one of the top positions for the department. And when I gave my resignation there, they were like, "What are you doing? Like, no one ever does this."
Wow,
and I was like, and then I took a similar role back in West Virginia at a smaller community hospital for WVU medicine, and did that. Personal reasons, I would have stayed there, but personal reasons, like my husband at the time couldn't find a job, and so there was a lot of things not aligning.
Yep.
And so then I went to Wheeling, which was still within the same system, and then that is where I really realized, you know what am I doing? And actually my sister asked me, it was last Thanksgiving, she's like, how'd you get to where you're at? And I was like, I started thinking about it. I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I'm blessed, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was blessed to have those opportunities. I feel even more fortunate to have mentors and friends.
Yeah.
Some of which I met at Live2Lead,
That's amazing.
to help me walk through, like, what do you really want to do? What does that look like for you? And how do you get there? And even though it's looking from the outside in, people might think that I've gone backwards, but I've not.
Not at all. Well, and I love that, because sometimes, to develop our leadership skills and grow as leaders, sometimes we equate that or think it's synonymous with working up the ladder, right? And of authority, and we call that success and monetary gain and all that kind of stuff. Not necessarily the truth, right? Like, sometimes being a good leader has to do with finding, first of all, understanding where you're gifted, and then where that best fit is for you, the wheelhouse where you can shine the most and have the most influence based on your giftings. And it sounds like you found that. I have, and I'm very fortunate. My boss is actually here with me today. Wow. She's the one that I worked with 15 years ago, and I'm so blessed because she sees what I bring when I don't, right? And she values that I've been at places above where she is, right? And still, like, we just had a conversation the other day because I'm in a newer role in the department, and we're like trying to define it. Like, what does this role even mean? What does it look like? What are the expectations? And she's like, and she understands me and that I need change and constant, like, interesting, not constant motivation, but just new strategies. And I like thinking big, and so she allows me that autonomy, which is beautiful, and you don't get that all the time. So that is not. I want to say normal, but no, to be in a situation with someone who you were actually above them at some point in the the social authority ladder in an organization. That's amazing. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so what are you hoping now? Because you've brought a group with you. I did. What are you most excited about for today and the conference for your folks? I'm excited for them to see Live2Lead and what it's all about. Yeah. I've already shared High Road Leadership with a couple of them, so I got the book. Okay. I've shared it with them. I also have to say, my son is in the Navy, and so I have to tout that a little bit. Wow, absolutely. He is in his second year, and he was just promoted ahead of some folks that have higher rank than him because he's enlisted. Okay. And I had sent him a copy of High Road Leadership, and he read it, and he's like, Mom, and he reads leadership books all the time, and he's like, this is like one of my favorite leadership books that I've read thus far. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy, because I didn't really know how he'd take it. And he ended up giving it to his chief, who was leaving because he's stationed in Hawaii, and this chief was going on to bigger and better things. And he gave it to his chief, was talking to him, and his chief was like, oh yeah, I know John Maxwell. I read some of his stuff. And so, it's really cool. Very cool. I'm hoping, it's a day away from us. Most of the stuff, if we go to leadership stuff, is around healthcare. This isn't. So I'm really hoping that they get recharged and come away motivated. And that's a good point. So it's different when it's specifically industry focused versus a more broad kind of leadership development. I think that can be very helpful to gain value that way. Yeah. So, wow, Jen, this is amazing. Yeah, I'm so grateful that Mike had you come over and talk to us. It is great to meet you. Nice meeting you. Super excited for you to be here again, and congratulations on your success. That's amazing. You. Yeah. Thanks. Redemptive Economics is completely listener-supported and dependent on the contributions of listeners. If you resonate with the message of Redemptive Economics and want to support the cause, there are 3 ways you can partner with us. The first is you can subscribe to the podcast for $5 a month and unlock all the amazing interviews and content without the interruption of advertisements. Secondly, you can donate to Redemptive Economics, either making a one-time gift or supporting monthly to help us offset the production costs and reach more people for the sake of the gospel. Lastly, if you're a business, you can choose to advertise with us. Right now, we're offering a limited number of spots for sponsorships for the first year at $150 per month or $1,800 for the year. I would be so grateful for your partnership. Check out the show notes for all the links that will lead to more information about how to support our mission to empower Christian entrepreneurs. All right, folks, I'm here with James Protin, who has his own podcast, the James Protin Podcast, and is here at the Live2Lead event. And this is your first time here.
First time.
At Live2Lead.
Yes.
How did you find out about it? How did you get here?
Maria Allshouse, who's speaking today, is a dear friend of mine, and she invited me as her guest.
Yeah.
And, when she explained to me everybody that was going to be here, all of the speakers, the locals that I know, and through the John Maxwell connection and everything, I mean, it falls right in line with everything that I try to do in my business and personal life.
Yeah.
So it was just a no-brainer. Made perfect sense.
That's great. Tell us a little bit about your podcast, your business.
Well, I'm basically retired from 40 years in the engineering industry, and now I'm doing.
I love engineers, by the way. I have a special affinity toward engineers. But anyway, go ahead, sorry.
I do a little consulting, and we do a lot of video in the marketing space. We started the podcast basically to kind of start to tell stories about people here in southwestern Pennsylvania who are doing really amazing things, interesting things that are giving back to the community, and to show that really business can really help the community and still thrive and profit from it.
Yeah,
and we've encountered a lot of Pittsburgh area nonprofits, and some that I didn't even know existed that are really, really cool. I've ended up on 2 of the boards, but so no, it's just been really cool. I would always see things on social media about this celebrity doing this and this person doing that, and I would think, well, I know a guy in Canonsburg that does that. Why aren't we celebrating him and elevating him?
James.
And that's kind of what we decided to do.
We have a very similar heart then, because the Redemptive Economics podcast is about, we highlight Christian entrepreneurs specifically who are doing redemptive things in the community. And man, the stories that have come out of Pittsburgh, this region,
it's incredible.
It is rich in terms of people who
incredible.
really want to impact this area, isn't it?
Yeah, Pittsburgh is one of the most giving places. I traveled extensively around the country for my job, and this is I was born and raised here, so I'm a little biased, but this is absolutely the best city in the country. It truly is. And, from the sense of community, from that standpoint, it's not, we're either a big small town or a little big town, however you want to look at it. But that the close knit communities that we have, it just really is it's refreshing, and it's not really found in other cities around the country.
I agree. I totally agree. So obviously you're familiar with John Maxwell. Most people are. When you say John Maxwell, everybody thinks leadership, right?
Sure.
So I'm curious, as you came here, what was your what's the thing that drew you here, that you were excited to gain or to experience?
Not to make a shameless plug, but I wrote a book.
And you did? No, this is great. Yeah, it's called, make a plug.
It's called The Person in the Chair, Becoming Your Authentic Self. And it's got a leadership piece to it. And I've been a follower of Maxwell's for a very long time, and I really like the way that he presents it, because he doesn't preach, he doesn't really even teach, he just leads by example. In the consulting that I do, to try to bring a faith-based leadership piece to empower and inspire people to just be their authentic self. That's really it is.
And that's where you're going to find the most power.
It's exactly
when
right.
you live into the way God made you
That's exactly
and designed you,
Yes.
and live into that sweet spot, man,
100%.
you will have a huge impact for his kingdom purposes.
That's what it's all about.
I love
I'm right
that,
there with
James.
you. Right there with you, my
I'm
friend.
so grateful to meet you, James. And
You as well.
It sounds like we're going to have to talk and have you back on. at
And
some
we will,
point.
let's definitely get together, and I'd love to have you on our show.
Absolutely.
We have
That'd
some
be
great things to talk about.
Yeah,
Thanks a
definitely.
lot.
James, great to meet you.
You
bro.
as well. Thank you.
Hey folks, I'm here with Seth Whitted, who I just started to have a conversation with, and oh my goodness, this guy is amazing. What you're doing is incredible in the Beaver area, Seth. And at some point, we're going to have him back on the podcast, and we'll do an official interview. But I wanted to take at least a few minutes right now for you to share a little bit about what you're doing. But again, we're here at the Live2Lead leadership event. Real quick, before we get into that, how did you get here?
Glenn Mason.
Yeah.
He invited me here, met him at a chamber event, and when I heard John Maxwell, that book was a part of changing my life, so I was like, oh, of course I'm going.
Yeah.
Sure. So I emailed him and said, yeah, I'll come on up.
Glenn Mason, who's here in the area, oversees
Spirits.
Am Spirit, right? Exactly. His table's right next to me here. So Seth, you were sharing with me about an incredible experience that you had, kind of shifting your mindset in how you were trying to get where you wanted to get, which was to make a difference in your community. And I want you to share a little bit more about that, but real quick, give folks an idea of what you do right now. What you have a business and you are helping people with content. Give us a little bit of a summary of what that looks like.
Yeah, so I basically am a media entrepreneur and an organization director. And we basically create content to empower underrepresented, underserved communities. And specifically the content I create is to bridge the gap between faith, purpose, and business and mental health, trauma specifically. And and we also work with other people to help them do storytelling around their similar missions. And we also have a content house where businesses, community members come in and create content themselves, whether it's a podcast or a movie, you can set up the movie. That's a little bit about the work.
I love it. Again, any of you guys who've been listening to the podcast and you hear him share what he's, they're probably like, oh my gosh, these guys are meant for each other. So, Seth, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship and friendship is what I'm saying, I think. But that's amazing, especially the part about serving under-resourced folks, the marginalized. Oh man, I have such a heart for that. So I love that. And that is, again, that was what you kind of wanted to do from the beginning. Mm-hmm. But tell us a little bit, if you can, and we don't have a whole lot of time, but give us a couple minutes of what that detour looked like to get to where you are now before you got to where you are.
Yeah, so it started at a young age, just recognizing that majority of the community was poor and struggling with just beautiful people. And, winter times without heat at times, catching my mom crying because she always remained strong in front of us. Very strong Christian woman. As a young man, you want to change your family's financial circumstances. And although I was going to school and although trying to do these other things, I thought, we have to get it now. And so a lot of us young, good men turned to the streets, selling drugs, trying to supplement or get up. But nothing ever built. No matter what I tried, I went into business, we're talking real estate, we're talking cars, all of these different things. Wow. And nothing ever took off. And God just kept bringing me back to rock bottom. Bottom. I'm like, bottom. Even where it was affecting family, I'm watching them. I'm like, that has to be because of me, right? Wow. And so that last moment was just literally me talking to God. Like, I vowed to never live this life ever again if you could reveal what my purpose is to me. And he showed me that what you're already doing, creating content, I want you to do that at the highest level. That is your kingdom assignment, is to empower people, teach my principles through content creation. And so it literally turned into, it gave me the clarity to keep doing what I was doing and to narrow to that, because I was broad with it. And also to partner with others and now provide for others to be able to do that. So
that's so cool.
That's a little bit about the journey.
That's amazing, man. Thank you for sharing that, Seth. And how are you seeing, like, if you could maybe share a story or somewhere where you're seeing what you're doing really making an impact, and like, can you point to someone or something where you're like, oh man, that's it. I'm so grateful that God took me here to accomplish that for His purposes.
Yeah. So specifically, back when I was playing around in the streets in the life of crime, I was also coaching. Unfortunately, right?
Interesting.
Because I wasn't living the way I was supposed to, but I'm also touching these kids.
Yeah.
And these kids are now in their 20s.
Wow.
And so now they're actually seeing a transition version of me. And so the cycle's beginning to break because a lot of them reach out to me and I'm actually working with them now.
Oh my gosh.
So they're breaking the very cycle that I wanted to break in the wrong way.
Wow.
So what took me till my 30s to break, they're able to break it in the 20s, and I'm watching them just as sharp, just as wise, just as hungry. But now they're actually exposed in a way I wasn't exposed to how to truly produce, because that's what it is. Young men, I can't speak for women, young men want to produce.
Yes.
And
oh man, you're using some of the same language I use on the podcast. Keep going. This is great.
So, and my guy Zabrion said it best to me. He said, a lot of these programs don't connect because they're not actually teaching the youth how to produce. And I was like, whoa, you worded that what I felt all along. He said, so we have to teach them how to produce, which led to the program called Impactfluence, where I'm taking 15 to 25 and paying them to show up and learn this business. They're going to learn financial literacy. They're going to get to the root of mental health. By the end of each semester, they have to be able to propose a full business media plan, understand project management, financial literacy, and to get paid. And that's my way of combating and breaking that cycle.
Man. So one of the things with the Redemptive Economics podcast is, and I share this in my story, there's like this shift from being mostly consumer minded to being a producer and being production minded. And it's very different because in order to produce, you actually have to stop consuming. You've got to turn away from the drugs, the food, the social media, the lust and porn, whatever it is. You got to turn away from what you're consuming and actually focus on producing something. And that's one of the hardest things that you can do. And you better believe as soon as you do that, you're going to run into resistance because the thorns and thistles of a fallen world are going to come in and try to sabotage your efforts. Satan's going to come in and try to sabotage your efforts. Your own sinful self is going to try to sabotage your efforts. It's so hard.
True. And it's almost like the greatest test. I see it as, God's letting this happen because He wants to see, all right, here's 10 right here. Can I trust you with 10?
Absolutely.
Because if I can trust you with 10, I'm going to try you with 100.
Absolutely.
And so that's the perspective shift. Although in those moments, a lot of times we're like, why me? I turned my life. Why aren't things going good? No. Look at that as a test. That's an opportunity. You pass that?
Yes.
Because that's what I learned with God is the more He can trust me. I don't know if you heard John Maxwell, but John Maxwell in there, he said that in order to get abundance, you have to actually believe that you deserve it.
Yeah, right.
You have to actually know it. And knowing is where God trusts you.
Yeah.
And so that's the journey, is how do you get to a place where you're trusted with it? You're still at your day job that you hate because you can't be trusted with the business yet. You're still stuck at 5 employees because you can't be trusted with 100.
Yeah.
So get to a point of deserving and knowing to get there.
Yeah, and that testing, I mean, it's compared in the Bible to gold being fired, silver being refined, and things like that. It's burning off the impurities and helping to bring forth the true you, your true worth, your true identity in Christ, which is even more precious than gold.
Yes.
Right? So, man, I love what you said. Man, okay.
How'd you get here? I need to. Maybe
Dude,
we
need to talk.
We
absolutely need to talk more. But thank you for being willing, Seth, to come on and share with us. Seneca Hills Bible Camp and Retreat Center is a hidden gem located just north of Pittsburgh in Venango County. Personally, when I attended their men's weekend, I was blown away by the beauty of the surroundings, the quality of the facilities, and the superiority of the cuisine. This is not your typical camp food, folks. Seneca Hills hosts year-round retreats and conferences, but their true passion is summer camp, where campers, both kids and adults, escape the everyday tyranny of screens and distractions and immerse themselves in 250 acres of God's gorgeous creation. Go to SenecaHills.org or call my good buddy Executive Director Lyndon Fowler to learn more about how Seneca Hills Bible Camp and Retreat Center can help you, your kids, or your business create unforgettable memories, meaningful friendships, and a deeper understanding of God's love. Hey folks, I'm here with Niki Mullinix, right? Mullinix, yes. She just gave an amazing message at the Live2Lead event. I'm excited to talk to her because she's got a backstory with this event, which is really kind of cool because Mike McCormick told me about this before. And so it's fun now to actually meet you and then see you up there, be able to share what you did, which was fantastic.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your experience with the Live2Lead event and how it's brought you to this point here where you're now kind of a keynote speaker.
Yeah. So the first year, which was 4 years ago, I was a sponsor and also did a small breakout where I talked about stocks and bonds. And that didn't go over very well because not many people want to hear about stocks and bonds at a leadership conference.
That's really funny.
So then the first year there was no coffee and it was 8 a.m. in the morning and I said to Mike, how can you have an event without coffee?
Right.
So I became the coffee sponsor, and I've been the coffee sponsor because coffee is very important to me over the last 3 years.
Me too. I really appreciate that.
So I just love coming. I love hearing the leaders, the speakers. They're very inspiring. I just feel like we all need a constant reminder of what leadership is, and it just helps us to navigate life and the journey that we're on.
Absolutely. We
with
need
coffee.
People. Right. Well, what I love about your message is that I think, to be a leader is to pour out to others, right? And to invest in others, using a financial term, right? Because we're constantly investing in giving, right? Giving was that was your rad giving or radical giving is what you spoke about today.
Yes.
And so it's interesting, we have people that pour into us, and then hopefully we get to a place where we get to pour into and invest in others, right? Give us a little bit of a summary of your message today, which was, again, rad or radical giving.
I hope that people think that giving is appealing, something positive, something that's, again, making an impact on other people. And what I wanted them first and foremost to realize is if they wait to think they have enough to give to other people, they're never going to have enough because it needs to be first. It has to be a priority, otherwise it won't happen. I've done it, you have to do it regularly and first.
Were you here for the John Maxwell's message too?
Yes.
It works so well together.
Yes.
That abundance mentality.
Yes, it is an abundance mentality for sure.
Yeah, and those who have a scarcity mentality. I talk about this on Redemptive Economics, the podcast too. I talk about the difference between an abundance and a scarcity mentality, and often that scarcity mentality, the scriptures talk about it. It says, like, those who hold too tightly to what they have will lose it, but those who are generous, good will come back around to those who are generous. Scripture talks about that a lot.
Absolutely.
And by the way, I am really grateful that you shared your testimony and really gave credit and glory to Jesus. Praise God. I'm grateful for you that you did that. I'm curious, was that something you had planned on? Was it something that happened in the moment? What for that was?
Well, it was part of my story. I mean, I do give glory to him for my success and for the growth that I've seen in my own life, personally and professionally. And I first wrote and did this presentation for a women's group where I didn't talk about my faith because I wasn't sure of the audience. And so I just made it about giving and finding joy in giving, regardless of the amount. But when I started to think about this event, and it is a faith-based event, although we have many people here with diverse beliefs and religions and culture, I just felt like this was the perfect place for me to talk about it because it is my story and it is why I'm here.
Amen. Amen. Niki, well, it was perfect the way you shared it. Was amazing. And you're right, this isn't like an explicitly Christian event, yet almost all the people here are Christians and, of course, faith-based in terms of leading it. And there's many faith-based organizations like my podcast and Truth at Work and others here as well. So that's amazing, Niki. I'm so grateful that you did that, and hopefully that's something that stays in that message moving forward too, because if anybody should be generous, it should be those of us who have received forgiveness and redemption in what Christ did for us on the cross, right? I mean, that absolutely changes everything. It changes our whole life.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So that's amazing.
Mike.
Real quick then, how do you, with the financial services that you provide now, and I'm sorry, I should have told you, or mentioned this from the beginning. Tell us about your role at because you own a company. It's, what's it called again?
Astyr Wealth.
Astyr Wealth.
Yes.
Yes, and I love what the lady who introduced you said. Astyr is a flower?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, it's actually my birth month flower, and I didn't even know it until after I had already chosen it. I just loved the meaning. I loved the symbolism behind it, and I love that it started with the letter A because it's first in the alphabet. So,
right. So if we still had telephone books, you'd be right there in the beginning.
Yes,
right?
if we still had phone books. So, and actually, my mom worked for the phone books for years, so and I was in advertising, so
hilarious.
That was kind of top of mind for me to start with the letter A.
Okay.
But I came home from work one day after we had decided to rebrand and find a name for ourselves other than the Money Ladies, right? Because that's what people would used to call us.
No way.
And I told my husband, I think it's Astyr Wealth. And he goes, you know that's your birth month flower? And I'm like, no, I didn't even know it. So it was just like, it was so fitting. And I do feel like it was a calling and from God that we chose that name.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are those moments where God kind of affirms what you're planning on doing, you know? I love that. Great. And that's, again, the beauty of being a Christian and living in Christ now is that you're never alone. God is always guiding the process. He's connecting the dots and making connections where you don't even realize you need them yet.
Right.
Providing resources where you don't even know you need them yet.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about Astyr and the organization.
So we do holistic financial planning.
Okay.
So we're not just, as I said, shucking stocks and bonds or talking about investments, although that's an important component of it. But we're really working with our clients to understand what their vision is and their goals and their legacy that they want to leave behind so that we can appropriately put a plan in place to help them get there.
Yeah.
So we're looking at investments, we're looking at risk, in terms of what happens when there's a life event. We're helping them to be prepared for that so that they're not scrambling or in a state of I don't know what to do because they've already planned it out ahead of time. And you make better decisions when you're not in a state of panic, right, or reacting to a situation. We also help people with the next generation in terms of estate planning and making sure that their wills and their trusts are put in place, and around their giving, again, incorporating giving into their cash flow, helping them to understand the impact that they can have. And as a certified Kingdom advisors, we can now infuse biblical principles into the secular world of finance, which I had never known. I'd always kept it separate. I always did keep it separate. I didn't want anybody to think that, I don't know, I was just religion and politics. I was raised to think that in finance you just don't talk about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's so funny.
So I kept it very, I stayed in my lane when I was at work.
Interesting. Yeah, I talk about this on the podcast that I used to think of the business corporate world as being on like a false, I call it a false dichotomy now. You have the business and corporate world, which is evil. You kind of probably sacrifice your values and your faith, but then you've got the ministry and church world over here, and almost like penance. If you take what you get in the evil, corrupt world and give it to the ministry world, that's where God's really working.
Right.
And that's totally wrong. And I've learned that through doing Truth at Work and meeting with other business leaders, that you have a tremendously redemptive impact through your business. And it's like this, it's mixed together. You can't pull the two apart. And I think the same thing is true with our resources, our money that we manage, however it is that we do manage it. So I love that you came to that conclusion.
Yes.
That's amazing.
I was like, why wouldn't I talk about this? Why can't I be bold in my faith at work? And so that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, how long have you had, I keep wanting to say, it's Astyr.
It's Astyr, well.
For some reason I want to say Astyr, but Astyr. Okay.
Astyr. A lot of people want to say Astyr, which is the fancy term, but it's Astyr.
Okay.
I've been with my current broker-dealer for 20 years, but I had been with a couple others, like in the bullpen that I talk about.
Oh, yeah, right.
I started in 1999, so
That's
25 years I've been doing this, and again, my practice has just grown over that time into what it is today.
I loved hearing your story about that, Niki, how you would, in the bullpen, like just dialing for dollars, right?
I was.
You see that in some of the movies and stuff sometimes.
That's exactly what it was like. I would literally put a mirror on my desk to make me smile and dial while I was calling 300 people a day.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, just shucking stocks at them over the phone. Wow. Back then, I didn't even have to know anything about them. They could just say yes on the phone, and I would place a trade.
Wow.
And then I would get out to meet them, and then I'd realize, wait, this probably wasn't a good idea for you. And that's truly what made me take a step back and think, what is it that I really want to do here? Do I want to just sell people things? And I don't know where it fits. It's not like a pair of shoes that you can just return it, right? I had already placed the trade. I'm picking up checks for thousands of dollars, and I'm like, wait, they don't even have a plan. They don't have the money to do this.
Oh my gosh.
And so I started to really take ownership of what I was recommending, and I want people to know that we're there with them. You know, this is a relationship. We're not just going to do a financial plan and wish them well. We're going to be there to see it through.
Man, it's too funny. Folks who've been listening to the podcast and who will hear what you're just saying now, you'll hear how aligned that we are in some things that you're sharing. So thank you for sharing this and sharing your story today about and the attitude we should all have to be generous and be giving. So appreciate you, Niki, and so excited about Astyr and what you're doing with that. So,
Thank you. Thank you for
absolutely.
having me.
Jeff Doherty with Allstate Insurance has the distinction of being the very first sponsor of the Redemptive Economics podcast, and I couldn't be happier to promote his services. I've known Jeff for many years now, both as his pastor and friend, and man, I can say with confidence that he is a man of strong faith who aligns well with the Redemptive Economics values. So reach out to Jeff. He can offer you options for a wide variety of coverage and services. He's committed to helping Pittsburgh residents assess their immediate and long-term needs and choose options that will help you achieve your goals. When you want to explore options for protecting your home, personal property, or financial future, Jeff Doherty is your guy. You'll find Jeff's contact information in the show notes. Hey, go grab a cup of coffee with him, get to know him, even if it's just to review your current coverage in case you need to make adjustments. And I promise you're going to love Jeff every bit as much as I do. Hey folks, I'm here with Brenda Tenison, who, man, your message was incredible. And we started recording before the event started, kind of, and then I'm glad that we're recording now and I got to hear your message ahead of time. You told me a little bit about it before last night, but getting to hear your message and now get to talk to you, I feel like I have so much more context to understand you a little bit better and then have you share. So first of all, how did you get connected to this Live2Lead event?
Well, really through Mike McCormick, who is the person who put it all together. And Mike and I actually worked together a long time ago on some capital campaigns and in his book and that kind of thing. So we've known each other a long time.
Oh, that's great. So have you been coming to this for?
No, this is my first one.
First time? Okay, all right, very cool. And so you shared the story of climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, which I love it. Man, I love that story. And I'm sure everybody could relate to it on one level or another. I love how you took the principles you learned and distilled them down into everyday life for the rest of us to relate to. But that also led to, for you, a new mission and kind of a call that God has on your heart with Bbright.
Right.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
How that happened?
Yeah. So I, in 2019, went on my first mission trip to Thailand, and that's when I met the girls at Faith House and just realized that we could make a big impact in their life, given our community and our resources, and it takes very little, really, to make an impact, and usually that's the case many times, is people get hung up in trying to make a big impact instead of just making a move, just doing something, and then the next thing, right? John Maxwell talked about that today.
Yes.
So, and yet I was waiting for God to tell me to go because this happened in 2019. Had I started it right then and there, it wouldn't have, I don't think, blossomed into what it is now because the pandemic hit. So I waited until I felt like God was saying go, and started a nonprofit to really help raise money for education and to help feed these children, and it's just grown from there.
So Bbright is the nonprofit you started,
yes,
and that was in 2019 when you started it. Is that right?
That's when I went on the trip, and then I started it in 2020. It came to fruition in 2021.
Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, because starting a nonprofit is not. It takes some time to get all that paperwork together and hear back from the IRS and everything.
Yes.
I know. I've been on some boards for some nonprofits. So okay, talk to us about Bbright. Man, I love. I was noticing your logo, and maybe I'll put a graphic up so people can see it, but like it's got the sun kind of rising up over the one side, which is so cool. And that's very much a theme in my life. Coming from, I wrote a book about this, an addiction to pornography, and having to learn how to walk in the light versus walking in the dark, and the change that made in my life. And so anyway, you're with Bbright. It's really, it sounds like, and tell me if I'm telling this right, as we walk in the light, we are a light for others, and this is one of the ways we can be a light. So, go ahead and explain that a little bit.
So, Bbright, like you just said, the world is a dark place, and God calls us to be lights in the darkness, so we should be bright. And that, again, can be in your home, in your community, or in your world. So you don't have to go to Thailand to do that, but if that's what God's calling you to do, then you should listen to that. And darkness never overcomes the light.
That's right. Oh, I love that. Yep. But light will make the darkness flee.
Light makes the darkness flee. And we need more light in this world. I was talking earlier about how I just feel like everyone is so hyper afraid and hyper anxious right now.
Yes.
Everyone. And I keep telling people, this is not going to change November 6th. We have to learn how to rise above that and live above that. And part of that is the hope that we have, the light that we have, and sharing that with others around us so that we aren't feeding the hyperventilation that's going on.
Yeah, and you're serving some people who are in some really dark places of the globe. Tell me about some of these folks that, and I know because talking to her last night, your face lights up. You get so passionate about when you talk about these folks you serve. Share a little bit about them.
So we serve 50 girls in Thailand. They are refugees from Myanmar. They've escaped the civil war that's happening there. It's been going on the longest in human history. And then we serve 900 kids in Kenya. 500 of them live in the slums of Nairobi, which is in Mathare, the second largest slum of Nairobi. They live
Mathare is the slum in Nairobi.
They live in a 10 by 10 tin shack, no running water, no power, and no sewer. And no cops. There are no police in that area to patrol. So there's violence and there's thuggery and all that stuff that goes on there. And there's no place for them to play. There's little labyrinths of dirt paths that go through and connect these places, but there's no place for them to be a kid except for this school.
Oh my goodness.
And then out in the country, we're supporting another school that's helping these Maasai girls escape forced marriage. And without it, they would be sold off to elder tribesmen for cows and goats for the rest of their life. About age 12, 13, or 14, they take their daughter and they sell them to a wealthy older tribesman because they get more cows and goats that way, and that is how they display their wealth. And so the girls come to this school either by escaping that family, loosely termed family, or their mothers make a choice for them because that same thing happened to their mom and to their grandmother and to their aunts and to their sisters. We had the girls telling us, weeping, that they were the only one of 8 sisters who had a chance at an education. The rest of their sisters had been sold.
Imagine growing up in a family. I mean, do they grow up knowing that this is the end that they will face? Oh my gosh.
And what happens is if they don't have a mother and a father, they were telling us stories that the orphaned children lived in another hut, that the uncle didn't even bring them into their hut and sometimes only fed them the scraps. So they were starving. Right? So this is a wholly better life for them. It's a wholly better life because of Jesus and what he does for them. And what we're realizing too is the trauma that they feel and the healing that they need from that. So we can provide the academics, but we also need to provide the healing from the trauma so that sticks. To me, shame is the Teflon that makes the gospel slide off of us, and we need to heal the shame so that it can stick.
Man, amen. Oh my goodness. So you are literally reaching out to him. This is, you talk about the widows and the orphans that Jesus talks about, true religion. I mean, you really are embodying that and helping others to play a role in facilitating that redemptive influence. That's amazing.
You know, I say people get overwhelmed because they say, I can't save 40 million people from being trafficked, but you can save one at a time.
Absolutely.
I can't change 500,000 people that live in the slums of Mathare, but we can save 500 kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so people say, well, what can I do? Join us. Help us do that. We have more ahead. So
yeah, that's awesome. Wow, Brenda. Okay, so last question. Thank you for sharing this. This is so cool. So then, for you today from this Live2Lead event, what are you taking away that stuck with you?
Well, mindset was what I talked about, and I heard it a few times today.
Absolutely. It was a theme.
It was a
throughout
theme.
the whole conference,
definitely a lot of themes that we did not orchestrate. Only God pulled all that together.
Absolutely did, yes.
But mindset, and I think it speaks to what I said earlier, is that we have a choice on how we react to these things that are either happening in our world, in our culture, in our community. And that is part of the mindset, not only that we listen to what other people say about us, but what we tell ourselves. And so how do we make it through each day with what kind of mindset?
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, so I've had several guests on that talk about the way we were designed in gaining our security and our purpose and from God, from who's as you mentioned, we're child of the King, and that should inform who we are, and then out of that identity should motivate what we do for God's kingdom purposes. And man, there's so much purpose and peace when you live out of that, right?
There's so much freedom there.
Absolutely.
And we live in the chains of all this stuff, but if you let that go and you live as loved as you are, what would that look like?
Man, that's amazing. And how many people benefit from that too that you don't even realize. Brenda, thank you so much. Thank you for being with me today and getting the opportunity to share this. Really appreciate it.
TBD Bookkeeping is who I use for my bookkeeping needs, and I'm thrilled to recommend them to you. As business owners with 3 kids themselves, Ryan and Danielle Hatch understand the value of time and the importance of work-life balance. TBD Bookkeeping can take over the day-to-day bookkeeping of your business so you can focus more on growth, operations, and customer relationships. I can speak from experience. If you're a business owner, you need a bookkeeper, and TBD Bookkeeping is simply the best in the business. Find their contact information in the show notes, and when you mention Redemptive Economics, you'll receive 10% off your first 3 months. Call TBD Bookkeeping today and learn more about the benefits I've experienced. More time, peace of mind, and the ability to plan for the future.
All right, hey folks, I'm here with Eric and Julie Chandler here at the Live2Lead leadership event, and really excited to talk to you guys. I hear that you are entrepreneurs as well, and hold that a little bit closer to your mouth just in case. There you go. Tell me a little bit about what you guys do and what brought you here.
Yeah, we are Chandler Coaching and Consulting. We do life and business coaching, and we help people discover, develop their strengths so they can dominate in life. That's what we do as a couple. I focus on men, she focuses on women, and then together we're able to focus on couples.
That's excellent. So, okay, I know there's a story behind what brought you to what you're doing now.
Yes.
So, can you share a little bit about your background? What made you decide to go this route and embrace this mission?
Go ahead. I'll let you start.
Yeah.
So we were part of corporate America for many years, and we just kind of felt like each time as relationships continued, folks started asking us, how did you get to this point? What inspires you? And of course it's the Lord, but we wanted to just really give back to people and realize that we all have different strengths, natural strengths.
Yep.
And we wanted to start pulling those out in people. So we used the Gallup-Clifton Strengths assessment to pull that out.
Love it.
And then we walk people through that so they see what they are naturally talented at. So instead of struggling to be better with something that maybe you will never be good at, you're already naturally wired to do something. And this will help you with your walk, your assignment, and we're here to help you with that.
That is so freeing, isn't it? When
It is.
You can live out of the way God gifted you.
Yes.
Not trying to be similar to what actually John Maxwell was talking about today, where you're not trying to be someone else based on other people's expectations
Exactly.
of you, but living out of the core of who you are.
Yes.
That's amazing. Okay.
And that's what we get excited about. We get excited about coaching people and seeing the aha as how they're already naturally, how they naturally think, behave, and feel. And it's like, oh yeah, I do that already. Yeah, so do more of it, and the stuff that you're not good at, let's find somebody to help us with it.
Absolutely.
And I think the hardest part of this is realizing that you are good enough. You really are good enough. And most of us have heard throughout our life that we aren't.
Yep. That we are
So
unworthy,
report
right?
cards in school, all of your whole life. So
you are like speaking to my heart. I was a terrible student, and I still, like, no kidding, I will go into the school with my son sometimes.
Yes.
When he was in kindergarten, we'd walk into the school, and the smell of the school would turn my stomach because I've had so much trauma from the education system.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So we're excited about this opportunity to be able to do this together as husband and wife and learn our strengths together and just be able to unpack that in other couples as well. So it's really exciting.
That's awesome. All right, so what brought you guys here today to the Live2Lead event? And tell me a couple things that you're really getting out of this.
We actually got invited. We got invited by actually two people, the speaker, Maria Ohaus. We got invited by her as well as Melissa Six. So we're like, yes, let's go for it. And I love John Maxwell. I have his books read, just about every book that he has. And what I've gotten out today was really is your mindset, right? How important it goes back to what the Bible says about be transformed by renewing your mind, and we have to renew our mind daily, continually, and just great stuff.
Absolutely.
And I love being around other believers just to help each other spur it on. You know, sometimes this is intimidating, working on your own with the Lord, where sometimes it's easier to work for another person and help them fulfill their dream instead of you fulfilling your own and walking out what God has had for you. So that's what I personally have learned, but also Live2Lead in this environment is feedback just is. It's just that simple.
Oh, that was huge, wasn't it?
Everybody needs it.
It just is.
You know, so it just is.
Yeah, it's data, and we need it. We need the information. We need the feedback. Yeah, Jeff Hancher's message about feedback was fantastic.
Yes,
Really,
and he's a
really
dear
good.
friend of ours as well. We've known him for a long time, and
Do you guys
just
go
to
the same
watch
church
him
by any chance?
We don't.
Okay,
but
okay.
we're friends.
somewhere along the way we
okay.
have crossed paths a long time
That's
ago,
so cool.
and it's just neat to see, you know, again, somebody who's stepping out and seeing success. So
What is the name of your business now?
Chandler Coaching and Consulting. We also go by C3 for short.
Oh, I like
So,
that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
C3, that is
Yeah.
a great ring to it.
Yes.
Very
So,
cool, very
yes.
good. Well, thank you guys both for being willing to share and talk a little bit about what you've
Yes.
gotten so far
We're
out
excited.
of the conference.
Yes.
Really excited for you guys.
Thank you.
In this new venture.
Yes.
New adventure.
Yes.
Because it is. Entrepreneurship is an experimental process. And I heard someone say this on my podcast previously. They said, typically you never end up where you think you will when you get started, and that's if you're doing it right, that's what's going to happen.
That's the truth. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love it.
Good
Thank you
stuff.
guys for being with us
Thank you.
today. All right, folks, I'm here with Mandi Pryor with the Southwest
Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce. Okay. Yep. I was at one point part of the Northwest
North Regional.
North Regional. Thank you. I always get
Chamber?
it. Yes, North Regional Chamber.
Something
okay.
like that.
Yeah. So
We
what
love
do you do?
them.
What do you do with the chamber?
I'm the executive director.
Ah, fantastic. All right. I don't want to seem, make too big a deal out of it, or I shouldn't, but I love meeting women in leadership positions, especially in business, so really excited to meet you and hear
you.
about that. So tell me a little bit about what you've gotten so far out of this Live2Lead leadership event.
Sure. So a couple of my members actually have spoken already today. But I did like what John Maxwell said this morning about having an abundance mindset. I think that you can definitely step back and get almost downtrodden in your thinking and like, oh, it's going to be how this is, instead of thinking like, push forward, things are going to be wonderful. Push forward, things are going to be wonderful. And I think you keep that up and keep reflecting on it. Like if I had him talking in my ear every night going, nope, stop thinking like that, abundance mindset, I think you really can grow that way. I think if you're thinking positively, it does make a big difference.
Yeah, it was interesting the difference that he mentioned between belief and, I'm forgetting it now, there's another part of that, belief and identity or something like that, where you can kind of push through with belief, but it in a sense defies what you truly feel, and therefore you kind of live hypocritically in some ways. But that's why your identity and being secure in your identity is so important, so that your confidence comes from a more authentic place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and you can get lost, especially if you're, I'm considered a leader. I don't know why they let me do that, but you can definitely get lost in like what you think a leader should be, what you think a leader should do, what that leader's doing, but what that leader's doing.
Yeah.
And then lose your own identity because you're trying to be all these different types of leaders.
Yeah.
Whereas instead, you really have to hone in on who you want to be as a leader, what you're projecting as a leader, because not every leader is going to be correct or be the person that you want to take in.
So valuable. I really, really appreciate that perspective. I spoke to someone earlier and talked to another woman who took on an executive role. One woman I knew became a CEO for a couple of years, and she ended up having to take a step back because she realized it wasn't the best fit for her, and she was getting burnt out, and she found another role that she had to take a step back to, and where she's thriving now as a result. And we talked about the fact that sometimes being a leader doesn't mean just progressing up the ladder, if you will. It means finding your sweet spot.
Absolutely.
Right? I love your perspective on it. Okay.
Well, and burnout, I experience it like every other week, but you have to. One thing I don't do, and a lot of leaders don't, is we don't ask for help. We know how we want it done. We know what we want done. We know we're going to be the only good ones to do it, because you put it off and it might be done wrong.
Yeah.
But you can't. You have to let a little thing here and there go wrong if you're getting the help to support you to do more things right without burning yourself out. Because no leader is very good if you're burnt out all the time running around.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So give us a 30-second kind of promo for the Chamber of Commerce here. What are you excited about? What you do there? And if people are here locally here in Southwest PA who might want to get involved, why would they?
Sure. So just a few things is we are known as one of the most active chambers in the area. We have events 3 to 5 times a month, whether it's a small coffee hour to executive roundtable to our bigger economic forecast, community outlook events, our giant holiday event, which is over 200 people, award ceremonies. We have everything going on for every kind of business, every size, every time of day. We try to have something available. Internally, I think we're very supportive in kind of what I like to say the future of how chambers work, which is promoting our members online, promoting our members to each other through graphic design, through promotions, in different ways. I think the chamber's changed. It's just not events anymore, it's support. And lastly, supporting them through partnerships. We're trying to get our members to partner. We partner outward with other chambers, with other groups, to help them grow within what they're doing.
That's great.
And so we want you to grow as a business.
Yep.
And then we're supporting our townships, boroughs, municipalities on top of it. So educating them, getting them with the right people, because then that is the umbrella effect of trickling down into those businesses and helping them.
Yeah. Mandi, I can tell just by the way you just communicated that you are passionate about what you do.
I am.
You love these business leaders. So
I've been doing it for 7 years, so it's been a great journey. I've learned a lot. I was just like, a little green thing walking in, not knowing what I was doing, and I really feel like I see the projection of like 7 more years.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love hearing that. And the fact that you're getting to serve others the way you are, you're clearly putting these business leaders first and wanting to help them. Man, sometimes we forget. We forget about the Chamber of Commerce and the role that you play in helping to foster small businesses in the local community and what a redemptive impact that can have.
It really does. And it feels good to see a local business owner who's now selling products in a market, or like seeing that grow as their families are growing. I mean, that's a great feeling.
Absolutely. Mandi, thank you so much for being with us today, man. Really, really appreciate you taking the time to step in and chat with us.
Thank you.
Truth at Work executive peer advisory groups are a life and business changing experience. Trust me, I've experienced it myself. It made such an impact on me that I stepped out to become a chapter president myself. At Truth at Work, we're dedicated to helping Christian business leaders who feel isolated and overwhelmed. Our community of like-minded peers are here to help leaders like you live out your faith in the marketplace and build your business on biblical principles. Christian business leaders are transformed through these peer advisory groups that apply biblical truth for living out our faith in all areas of life. If you'd like to learn more about Truth at Work, email me, Mike Hatch, at mhatch@truthatwork.org, or you can email my counterpart, Dave Hartman, at dhartman@truthatwork.org. Hey folks, I am here with Michelle Myrter. Oh my gosh. Michelle Myrter. We just went over this and the whole spelling of your last name. It's not spelled like murder. But Michelle, it is really good to have you, and I'm really grateful that you took the time to share with us today. And I've heard about you before because someone else in my Truth at Work group has been deeply impacted by what you do and the message you bring and the tools that you offer. And she's in one of my Truth at Work groups, Dina. But so tell us a little bit about, if you would, give us your kind of background and summary of what you do and the tools that you do bring for folks.
Well, thank you, and I'm so excited to be here and with you on here. So, hi everyone. So I fell into this by accident, right? So I lost my job. I literally had to sell everything I owned, move my 2 small kids, and everyone I worked with also lost their jobs. So I went on a wing and a prayer and I opened a business. It was in the food industry, which is where I came from. So I actually had to rebuild my life. And in the process, I ended up going to a conference and I met this woman who reverse engineered personality science. So initially, right, I see these cards, there's a book called Why They Buy, and she goes into, it's the only methodology in the world that's scientifically validated to predict buying behavior. At the time, I was starving in my business, so I was like, oh, I need this. This makes total sense. I understand why I just blew that $180,000 deal that I needed more than air itself. So initially, I came into this from my business. And then I end up getting into this coaching. There was a coaching program. So the first day I start, the first code we go over is the blueprint, the inside the box, the structure, the stability.
And there are 4 cards. 4 codes, is it what you call them?
4 codes.
Okay, so you're talking about the blueprint.
The blueprint.
Code. Right, okay.
So they want structure and stability and systems, and they plan everything. And if you're on time, you are late.
Yeah. Oh, yep.
Okay.
That was the Air Force for me when I was.
So you want to be 20 minutes early. On Zoom, 6 to 7 minutes early. Right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay, so they're very inside the box, and that was the first code that we went over. So that's my son's first code.
Really?
Yes, and my first code is the next code, the action. Right? The mover, the shaker, the millionaire maker. The one who doesn't plan anything.
Oh my gosh.
So I ran him over just in these first 2 positions his entire life. They're 2 exactly opposite codes.
Interesting.
The key is everybody's all 4, right? So you have the blueprint inside the box. You have the action that blew it up. You have the nurturing that recycled the box. Relationships, teamwork, authenticity, personal growth. They want to make the world a better place. It's all about the love.
Right.
You can feel it when they talk to you. It's like warm and fuzzy, like little sunshine, right?
Absolutely.
Rainbows.
Yep, I'm a nurture. That's, I know.
Exactly. So you feel.
Deeply.
And then the last code is knowledge. They're also colder. They aren't inside the box, not outside the box. They didn't recycle it, they engineered it. Science, data, research, logic, it has to make sense. They don't like emotions because it clouds logic.
Interesting.
So when you unlock the values of the person, you've unlocked their entire operating system. Not only why they buy, why do they make decisions? Why do they show up the way they do? Why do they not have a plan like me, right? Why did I assume my son was just like me? Because we're humans. And we assume we're all the same. Although we all may speak English, each one speaks a very different language.
Yep, that's amazing. So someone could look at this and say, ooh, this is a way to make a killing. I can learn to understand people and make all my sales and I cannot wait to, what would you say to someone like that? I'm just curious.
So it's not about manipulating people. It's about influencing people and meeting people where they are. So I would say it's not about changing who you are. It's not about manipulating the person across from you. It's out of respect. If you went to a foreign country, would you expect them to adapt to your language, or would you learn the language of the people?
You'd hopefully, you'd want to adapt to their language, right? Yep. So if we look at, again, in redemptive economics, we're talking about being Christian business leaders and entrepreneurs, and the goal is to serve, right? To serve others. And this is an incredible way, I think, to serve them, because I don't think, when you get to know who someone is, understand who they are, and then treat them accordingly in the ways that, kind of like the 5 love languages that I'm sure some folks are familiar with, that I forget the guy's name who wrote that book, and learning how to love someone in the way they receive love, right? I see it that way, right?
So it takes the love languages and puts that on steroids. So gift giving, these all want different gifts. Words of affirmation, they all want different words of affirmation, even touch. This code, knowledge does not like to be touched. Right?
That's so crazy.
So when you look at that, you start to see, wait, we should treat people the way they were meant to be treated. God made us beautifully, right? So these are all tools. And every single code is important, and every combination is important, because you certainly wouldn't want an action right, trying to uphold the law.
Right.
And I shouldn't say that, because an AB would be good at it. But when you look at the actions, they're the rule breakers, not the rule makers. Your blueprints are the rule makers. You're nurturing, they'll say, well, it depends. Is it going to help someone? So we could break.
I laugh because that's the way I think.
Right. It depends on the situation, right? And your knowledge is like, well, I need the science and the research. I need to know the facts. This needs to make sense.
So do you help people, businesses, utilize this tool and this understanding of who people are?
Correct. Right? Training, coaching programs, and tools and technology, so that they can not only learn it, but live it. So with my son, because our relationship was so terrible, and once I unlocked his code and he knew what mine was, and we could look at that as a big picture and say, oh, wait, I get it. Then it changed everything. And then I could take it, immerse myself in it, and not just learn it, but live it. Because I lost 18 years with my son that I will never get back.
Wow. Wow.
My youngest son and me were wired similar.
So it was easier, probably.
So it was easier. But even with him, when he would dance in those codes and show up differently, or I would show up differently, we couldn't understand each other. Once you can learn to listen and look for those clues, you can meet people where they are 100% of the time. So people are seen, heard, and understood, and you eliminate the conflict. And you bring the love back, where now you're not judging. You're able to look at that person, stand side by side, and say, wait, what do you see?
Man, that's beautiful. So redemptive economics, we talk about having redemptive influence in the marketplace and with people and in the community. And what a beautiful way to have that redemptive influence with people in the relationships you have with people at work, your partners, your employees, whoever it is, your customers, and you have a redemptive influence. As I'm hearing you say this, I'm processing this, and I'm thinking, God made us a certain way, and God knows us in a specific way, and loves us in a specific way based on who we are. And we can actually have that influence on other people when we love them that way as well. We recognize who they are. We affirm them in their value, the way that God designed them. Because so many people in this world are trying to take.
Correct.
Take, manipulate, get what they can. And man, with something like this, and you're able to understand the other people well, holy cow, that is redemption. Redeeming means to buy back or take back, right? And so in a sense, when you do this, you're literally affirming that person's value of who they are, who God created them to be, and kind of taking back, in a sense, maybe the lies that they've been told their whole life. So it gets deep, it gets profound, you know what I mean?
It does, and ultimately, like, we have a further assessment that rates you out of 25 points, right? The higher you are above 20, the more optimized.
Interesting.
The closer together the numbers, the easier dance and shift from past experiences, from the way you grew up, all of those things. So when you look at them as tools, you can increase your codes. So the goal is to optimize yourself so that you can be that best version of yourself, right?
Yes. That's great. And I'm going to grab something because so I've got the 15 redemptive economic principles here that I share on the podcast. Principle number 2, under aligning with God's redemptive plan, created in the image of God, people are the most valuable assets, worth infinitely more than any other capital. And I talk about how Christians, by virtue of having the Holy Spirit put into us, are actually God's store of value in some ways. But the point is that, like, what you're doing here, to me, I'm trying to connect the redemptive economic principles here with what you do, and that's just a beautiful connection.
Yeah.
So, man, this is awesome. Thank you, Michelle, for being here. Thank you for sharing. Man, you brought so much value. Aww. She was the last speaker, but she also utilized all the other people and identified different things and brought it into your talk. I think a lesson in public speaking. I hope people took away some tidbits there. So, thank you for taking the opportunity to be with me.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah.
I'm honored to meet you.
Absolutely, Michelle. All right, hey folks, I am here once again at the Live2Lead leadership event, and this is very cool. I'm here with Mike Howard, who is the COO of the Wheeling Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, sir.
And so I know this podcast, we typically focus on the Pittsburgh region, but Wheeling is almost like a suburb in some ways of Pittsburgh, so I figured I'd pull you in, and because what I'm hearing, Mike, is that Wheeling is having a bit of a renaissance, or if you will,
really is.
It's coming alive again. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, it's always been a great hub for the arts, for education, for the Parks and Rec. Now the business world's coming back alive again. We've got a lot of things changing downtown, a $32 million streetscape project, which will be done next summer. And now our foundation, we have a 501c3 going to put in a business incubator, accelerator, just so many things happening in Wheeling. And we're happy to be a part of the whole Live2Lead program with Mike McCormick. We'll do ours in February
over
in Wheeling Island. It'll be our third
cool.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, so we love this Maxwell event.
So you knew Mike, obviously.
Known Mike for years, yeah.
Okay, all right. And you took over this role, how long ago was this?
I came in as a VP of membership and events and that type of stuff, and then got moved up to COO. It was 2.5 years ago now that we're grown from 500 to almost 750 members in our fastest growing area, right here in Pennsylvania. We have over 50 members from Pennsylvania now.
Yeah, talk about it, because that's what I heard. I heard another guy, Joe Hodoba, who's a good friend of ours, mutual friend, said that you're trying to expand out from Wheeling. This isn't just a Wheeling thing, but you're wanting to get bigger than that, right?
It's the Wheeling Area Chamber. We feel like we're more of that tri-state footprint. We still do a lot in Wheeling, but just driving here today, I met my coworkers at the Highlands, and from the Highlands to here, we made it in about 29 minutes. So Southpointe to the Highlands, very close. It's about like going from the Highlands to St. Clairsville, which you know well.
Right, that's right, where I graduated from high school. And I remember when I was a pastor at Orchard Hill Church, which is in the North Hills of Pittsburgh, we used to do men's weekends at Ogilvy.
Yeah.
And oh man, so many childhood memories over there in the Wheeling area.
You need to come see Ogilvy. They've had amazing renovation there.
Really?
The whole front is new. The restaurants are all new coffee shop. It's gorgeous. So if Mike comes down, I'll take him to lunch.
That's fantastic. I would love that. I'd take lunch anytime. Trust me. That is great. So that's fantastic, Mike. I'm so excited to hear about what's going on in Wheeling and the role that you get to play, which is really exciting.
Oh, it's awesome. And Marshall County, Belmont County, the whole area is benefiting, I think, somewhat from the energy growth. And just people are realizing what a great area it is. And with remote working, if you can work remotely and you don't want to live in a big city, come see what we got. And it's awesome.
And because Wheeling, I don't remember actually if Wheeling did Wheeling do steel as well?
Oh, it was big.
It was
many
big
years.
Okay,
the whole
that's
valley.
What I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the loss of that, the coal mining, all that took it down. Obviously everyone took a hit in COVID, but since then things are really picking up for us. And the streetscape project was huge. We've got a lot of people investing in restaurants and buildings, and it's really neat to see. We got a long way to go, but we kind of look at someone like a Chattanooga and go, that could be us 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Interesting. Yeah. That is so exciting. So, because I talk about on this podcast about the steel industry rug pull that happened here in Pittsburgh in the 70s and 80s, and how
I think
many
we're all
communities...
doing pretty darn good, though.
But
I'm a positive guy, so that's how I look at it.
But here in Pittsburgh, there are various communities, and places like Aliquippa or Ambridge or Katanning is having a revitalization right now too. But these places in Pittsburgh have still been reeling from that. They're still trying to recover in some ways. And Wheeling, to see this resurgence is kind of exciting.
Well, it's a strong workforce, and we have all of our colleges from West Virginia Northern, which is more the 2-year kind of programs that feed into the Wheeling University, which is really coming back. West Liberty University and Bethany College all are producing fantastic graduates. We've snagged 3 of them already at the Chamber. We're trying to infuse the work ethic of these young people that we can find out there, and they're out there, and get them involved in what we're doing at the Chamber, because us old guys aren't going to be here forever.
That's right. Mike, man, thank you so much for stopping by.
Mike and Mike.
It's so fun getting to run into people as sitting here at the booth and seeing different people. Like I did not.
I like what you're doing here. This is good. I got to get me one of those stands.
This is super helpful, man.
Thank you, sir.
So,